Well, I'm sure, as you now know, Donald Trump did decide to unilaterally take us to war with Iran over the weekend, although what's weird is that there's now a concerted effort to convince us that we're not actually at war with Iran. As Vice President JD Vance put it,
"We're not at war with Iran, we're at war with Iran's nuclear program."
Oh, well, thank goodness, because given how we're bombing them and they're now retaliating on U.S. targets in Qatar, I was beginning to think that this was a war, but it's not what it looks like, apparently. I guess we should not believe our eyes. So if that's the case, then what exactly is it? And according to our very honest vice president, it's more of a foreign entanglement than anything. And even though most Americans are exhausted with never-ending foreign entanglements, JD Vance assures us that things are going to be different this time.
I certainly empathize with Americans who are exhausted after 25 years of foreign entanglements in the Middle East. I understand the concern, but the difference is that back then we had dumb presidents, and now we have a president who actually knows how to accomplish America's national security objectives. So this is not going to be some long drawn out thing.
Do you feel better yet? So the president isn't some impulsive idiot who was literally persuaded by Fox News coverage to go to war with Iran, as the New York Times reports. It was a thoughtful decision. And this isn't going to be some long, drawn-out thing, even though Trump is now explicitly calling for regime change on Truth Social. So it's not a war, but if you're opposed to war, don't worry, because it's going to be different this time. How exactly is this going to be different than Iraq? The answer is it's not. Which begs the question, whatever happened to this promise? On November 4th, the official GOP Twitter account tweeted that Trump and Vance were the pro-peace ticket, but fast forward to today, and they're telling you that war is peace, actually, which is interesting because I mistakenly thought that people who were serious about peace would pursue diplomacy instead, but I guess not. And JD Vance explains why that's the case, even though this is not a war with Iran, but he explains why diplomacy is no longer on the table. And shocker, he's not blaming Donald Trump for that.
Well, I think the foreign minister is exactly wrong. We didn't blow up diplomacy. We only took this action, Kristen, when it was clear, as the president said, that the Iranians were tapping us along.
Wow. They think that we forgot about the little fact that Trump, not Iran, withdrew from the JCPOA that they were complying with. Trump withdrew in 2018. That agreement prevented Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, and they were in compliance with it. So Iran did not blow up diplomacy. We did, literally. And even though the Trump administration assured us that he had to bomb Iran because, they were definitely getting a nuclear weapon and they were an imminent threat, even though Trump's own director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, said that they were not pursuing a nuclear weapon back in March, well, she's now done a complete 180 in order to keep her job. And she now claims that she was taken out of context, and she says that she supports the president's war with Iran, despite literally selling no war with Iran t-shirts back in 2020. But shockingly, much like with Iraq, we're already finding out that we were lied to again, which is no surprise to people who've been paying attention. But now that the truth is already coming out, they're saying it doesn't matter. This is according to Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I think that question being asked on the media, that's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have
that is
everything
the
they need
key
to build a
point
weapon.
in U.S. intelligence assessments. You know that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
The political decision had not been made.
I know that better than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
It doesn't matter that there's no evidence to support their main justification for war with Iran. That's where we're at. We said we're going to go to war with Iran, and the American people are going to shut the fuck up and deal with it, period. But also, it's not really a war, wink, wink. So shut up about that, too. Don't call it a war. And also, we're not at war with them. And the thing that we said a week ago that was going to happen, it doesn't matter that there's no evidence for that. I feel like I'm going crazy. There's a reason why notorious neocons like Bill Kristol are joking about starting up the Project for a New American Century again. This was the organization that helped Bush manufacture consent for war with Iraq in 2003, and Bill Kristol very clearly sees that the neocons are once again dominating U.S. foreign policy. But to be clear, it's not like they ever lost power. They were always steering the ship. It's just that they had to be more covert in their imperialist ambition so as to avoid political blowback. But the thing that's changed now, and why Bill Kristol is saying that the neocons are back, baby, is because the rest of the political establishment has also fallen in line behind the neoconservative agenda, much like they did in 2003. For example, all of these supposedly anti-war Republicans have all lined up behind Donald Trump, unsurprisingly. So days before Trump bombed Iran, Charlie Kirk, who's basically the chief propagandist for Donald Trump, cited a poll saying that Americans don't want to be involved in a war with Iran. But of course, after Trump bombed Iran, he tweeted that Americans actually do stand with the president. So he pulled a Tulsi. But he's not alone, because right-wing influencer Gunther Eagleman applauded Trump for not getting involved in Israel's war with Iran. But less than a week later, he tweeted support for Donald Trump's war with Iran and said that he made the right call because, of course, Tomi Lahren also applauded Trump's war with Iran, even though she tweeted that we should stay the hell out back in 2019. And this is just a very small sample of supposed anti-war Trump supporters who changed their tune immediately after Trump chose to go full George W. Bush. And there's a lot more examples, but I feel like by now you all know that these people are hypocrites and they have no principles, so it's not surprising to see that they're doing this. So I don't have to show you 30 different examples. I think we all know by now that this movement is not a movement. It's a cult, right? And there's a strong disincentive for those within the cult to doubt it, because the one principled Republican who actually chose to stand up and oppose war with Iran is Thomas Massie. And guess what's happening to him? Trump is threatening to destroy his career because Massie is now being targeted by a brand new super PAC Trump launched to end his career. And when it comes to Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's claimed that she's against war with Iran, I think she sensed that she was flying a little bit too close to the sun herself, and she chose to delete a tweet accusing Trump of doing a bait and switch on MAGA because he chose to break his campaign promise of no new wars. And in another unnecessarily long screed on Twitter about why she's opposed to war with Iran, she was sure to emphasize that she, of course, absolutely still supports Donald Trump, even though she disagrees with him on this one issue. And to be fair to her, it's not like you have to completely disregard a president if you disagree with one thing, but this is a very big disagreement. This is no small thing. And in an appearance on Steve Bannon's War Room, she explained just how serious this was and why she was opposed to war with Iran. And to her credit, she forcefully condemned war with Iran and implied that Trump broke his campaign promise, but she still refuses to criticize him directly.
6 months in, Steve, and here we are turning back on the campaign promises, and we bombed Iran on behalf of Israel. Yes, it was on behalf of Israel. We're entering a nuclear war, the World War III, because the entire world is going to erupt. And you want to know the people that are cheering it on right now? Their tune is going to drastically change the minute we start seeing flag-draped coffins on the nightly news, on Fox News that brainwashes all the baby boomers, and on CNN that brainwashes all the Democrat baby boomers. And that is exactly how this is going to go down.
While I agree with her that mainstream media is part of the problem, notice how she never actually named Donald Trump a single time. She vaguely referenced the campaign, but she never said Trump is the one who broke his promise. She says the campaign broke its promise, because that gives her plausible deniability to when Trump says, hey, you said I broke my campaign promise. She could say, no, the campaign, i.e. people around you, they're giving you bad advice. So it's a group of people as opposed to one man who ultimately gets to decide at the end of the day. And the reason why she refuses to name names is because her loyalty to Donald Trump and her career in Congress is more important to her than avoiding what she says she thinks will inevitably devolve into World War III. And, at the time that I record this video, guess what? She still has not signed onto Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna's War Power Resolution to stop Donald Trump from going to war with Iran. To this day, Thomas Massie is the only Republican to sign on to this. Moreover, after AOC called for Trump's impeachment since he chose to go to war with Iran without congressional consent, which makes it illegal, well, guess who chimed in to defend Donald Trump from this attack from AOC? Of course, it was Marjorie Taylor Greene, who viciously attacked AOC, saying, shut up, you pathetic little hypocrite. You fully supported our military and IC running the proxy war against Russia in Ukraine, and you voted to fund the Ukraine war under your president with dementia. You don't get to play anti-war and moral outrage anymore. Oh, so she's the hypocrite and not you, when she's the one who signed on to the War Powers Resolution to stop war with Iran, and you haven't. Make it make sense. See, this is why I've said repeatedly that MAGA is not anti-war. because they have no underlying principles or philosophy driving them. It's just loyalty to Donald Trump. It's a cult of personality, and that's it, period. And the best that we get from self-proclaimed MAGA lawmakers like Marjorie Taylor Greene, aside from Thomas Massie, is tepid criticism of war with Iran with a full commitment simultaneously to support the president no matter what. In other words, he doesn't have to worry about losing support because, as she says, war with Iran is bad. She's making clear that she will never abandon him if he breaks his campaign promise. And I'm not saying that like Trump wouldn't go to war if Marjorie Taylor Greene told him not to and was more direct, but this demonstrates that she lacks conviction here because she knows what would happen if she fell out of Trump's good grace. She'd get the Thomas Massie treatment. But even though she's carefully avoiding attacks on Donald Trump directly, she is still getting attacked by fellow Republicans for her opposition to war with Iran. Case in point, Mark Levin called her a shameless nitwit and said that she's dumb. So what she doesn't understand is that you can't actually oppose war with Iran without making any enemies. But she wants to have her cake and eat it too, because she doesn't want people to think that she's a hypocrite when she is. She's doing the bare minimum and expects us to view her as an ally to the anti-war movement when she's not. She's a fraud. The only Republican who gets credit is Thomas Massie. So I say all this to say that Trump doesn't feel constrained by the anti-war contingent of MAGA because that doesn't exist. But to make matters worse, there's no anti-war contingent at all in the country, with the exception of the 59 Democrats and Thomas Massie, who signed on to the resolution to stop Trump's war with Iran. The overwhelming majority of lawmakers, including Democrats, are supporting the president's war, unfortunately. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, Chuck Schumer, leader of Democrats in the Senate, was attacking Trump for being too weak on Iran.
When it comes to negotiating with the terrorist government of Iran, Trump's all over the lot. One day he sounds tough, the next day he's backing off. If Taco Trump is already folding, the American public should know about it.
Congratulations, Chuck. He didn't chicken out after all. Good job. You certainly showed him. But, the question is, what about Hakeem Jeffries in the House? He's the leader of Democrats there. He never tried to goad Trump into a war with Iran like Schumer. And he also said that there's no evidence that Iran was an imminent threat to us. And he said this at the press conference about the president needing congressional approval to wage a war.
The use of military force, which is offensive in nature, must be approved by the House and the Senate. That's according to the Constitution. It's not optional.
All right, so now we're getting somewhere. The question is, why hasn't he signed on to Ro Khanna's war power resolution yet to restrain the rogue president who's in violation of the Constitution? Well, a reporter asked him about that, and his answer was predictable.
Would you support the Ro Khanna war powers resolution?
I haven't taken a look at it.
Thanks.
Amazing. There's a resolution that's gaining momentum to restrain Trump, and the leader of the opposition hasn't looked at it. See, this is why Trump took us to war with Iran, because there's no real opposition to it from people in power. The pro-war side is winning because they are decisive and organized, whereas the anti-war side is being overlooked and ignored by leaders of the Democratic Party. And even though Chuck Schumer himself is going with the same line about how this is illegal and Trump needs congressional approval, in the event a vote were to come up, are we sure that Chuck would vote against that? Are we sure that a lot of Democrats would vote against giving Trump approval to go to war with Iran? I mean, I say that because Chuck Schumer did try to goad Trump into war with Iran in the first place, or at least tried to get him to not negotiate with Iran. I mean, also, Chuck Schumer is doing nothing to rein in members of his own party from manufacturing consent for war on Fox News of all places. For example, Senate Democrats like John Fetterman are going on Fox and they're attacking Democrats for not falling in line and supporting Trump's war with Iran. I'm not making this up.
Do you think there are people in your party that are willing to make a pivot here and say, good job to the military, Mr. President, you did the right thing. If we're going to do anything more, come to us, to Congress? Or do you think that the knee-jerk reaction will prevail?
Absolutely. I mean, just because sometimes it might it's a decision that President Trump did. It's like maybe like reflexively you have to be opposed that. For me, again, I've been always calling to destroy these nuclear facilities. Now let's talk about the context in the middle of all that now too. Now, our party has been often wrong, and they were pushing for a ceasefire last year, and now Israel pushed through that and has broken Hamas and Hezbollah as well now too. And now here it is right now. Israel has air supremacy over Iraq right now. And now here's where where Iran is right now. Their capabilities are severely limited. And now that was an entirely appropriate to finally take out those nuclear facilities.
So Democrats were wrong to call for a ceasefire. Therefore, they must be wrong again with regard to Iran, and they should support the Republican president and approve of his illegal strikes on Iran. What do you even say to that? The small number of Democrats who did call for a ceasefire, they were proven right. Hamas has not been destroyed, and Palestinians in Gaza are being subjected to a genocidal campaign of eradication as we speak. The people who supported a ceasefire early have been proven right. But this asshole thinks that he was proven right because we live in bizarro land now. This is why Americans have no faith in our government, the ones that pay attention anyways, because it's insulting how much they just fucking lie straight to our faces with impunity. But it's not just the politicians, because as was the case in the lead up to the Iraq War, media once again is fully on board because of course they are. So let's hear from Joe Scarborough from Resistance headquarters at MSNBC and see what he has to say about Trump's decision to illegally bomb a country that was no threat to us.
As I said on Thursday or Friday, the president had no good options. What would Monday look like if he hadn't have moved, if Iran wasn't already at 60%? And an ability to create nuclear weapons in a short matter of time, right? I mean, I'm not this morning. I'm not championing either side of this. Although I ask you, David, how difficult would it have been for any president to not take that shot if they knew that Iran was even being attacked by the United Nations? I find it hard to believe that Bush 41, Bush 43, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, go down the list. Any presidents wouldn't have felt compelled to take that strike.
And this, my friends, is one of many reasons why things are so bad. Because it doesn't matter how loudly we say we don't want something or how loudly we say we do want something. We never get what we want because we don't have a say. It's a democracy, sure, but it's really a democracy in name only. The military-industrial complex calls for blood, therefore the entire political establishment must oblige, regardless of what the American people say. And the sad part is that, he says other presidents, including Democrats, would do the same thing. And I agree with him. I do think that Hillary Clinton probably would have done the same thing had Israel antagonized Iran in the first place and chose to bomb them. But that's kind of the problem, right? There's a problem there if there's no anti-war options ever on presidential ballots. The anti-war movement somehow is small and fringe and has no real influence anywhere, even after Iraq. It's insane. This is why Bill Kristol basically declared that the neocons are back, because he's right. He's unfortunately right. And again, it's not like they were ever not in control. I want to emphasize that. It's that the prevailing anti-war sentiment among the American public required the neocons to be less explicit about their imperialist intentions. But after seeing America elect a rapist felon who tried to overthrow the 2020 election, I think they probably realized that our dumbasses could be convinced of anything. You just got to give us enough propaganda. Hell, they're not even trying to be persuasive this time. In the lead up to the Iraq War, they were at least trying to convince us. Like they assumed that we were rational people who needed to see the evidence. But this time, they're literally just telling us that war is peace, for fuck's sake. So it doesn't matter if Americans are for or against war with Iran. They'll try their best to manufacture consent for it. But if they fail, they'll do it anyway because fuck you. There's profits to be made. There's donors to be appeased. And those are the people who get them elected. Therefore, what we say doesn't matter to these politicians. It doesn't matter that we're facing a climate catastrophe or that 68,000 Americans die every single year due to a lack of health insurance. Our government does not represent us. It represents the ruling class and large multinational corporations who profit off of war, which is why the crises that affect us have no bearing on any of the decisions made by Congress. So, like it or not, we are at war with Iran because America is no longer a democracy. And the only way the people will be able to be in power again is probably through regime change, as much as I hate to say it. And I'm not talking about Iran.
Do yourself a favor and click the join button on YouTube to become a member. Because Mike's doing a great job. Getting to watch his videos before everyone else is tremendous. Many people are saying this. Join today, folks. You won't regret it.